This is the first assignment for the second quiz in the second trimester. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be perfectly honest with you. Get your math vitamins ready because this is going to require effort, very little technology, and a whole lot of algebra simplification. So the first thing, and if you've got paper copies, this will help tremendously, is on this document, probably the best thing to do is to highlight what I have highlighted. And then watch as much of the video as you can. I'm going to do all these problems, which means this video is going to take 45 minutes. You don't have to watch it all at once, but watch for a couple problems and then try to do some on your own and then come back to the video. Most of what you need to know is in this video. The other two is just the graphing side of this, which is the exact same approach. You just have the graphs given. And then practice with the algebra, which you can do with function statements. Okay, so read this over. The major questions here: what side do I treat? What expression do I substitute in for y or x? And then simplifying on the x side or solving on the y side, depending upon what you substitute in for. Also, x and y axis reflections, read that. And I'm just going to save this for my examples. I have a couple examples here, and then some function notation problems that help you practice this. They look pretty scary. And then this is just some more things that are particular. So I'll be actually writing these down in these little tables here. So you're going to want to go through and put these tables in these problems. I call them a transformation substitution table. So the idea is you need to state, first of all, in order, from the first one to the last one, what the first transformation is and then what the last one is. So translating 3 units to the right. So this is the first transformation. So if you're transforming right or left, translating right or left, I meant to say, that's dealing with an x statement. And the substitution is going to be x minus 3 or x. Now, it's real important that you do this table because this is going to save you a lot of grief. So here's the idea. You've got this 3 units to the right. All the x's go 3 units to the right. So when you substitute in, you substitute the inverse expression. So instead of x plus 3, x minus 3. And then if it's an x substitution, you'll have simplifying to do on the x side. Now we're going to follow this up with 4 units down. So if you have an up or down translation, you apply it to the y variable. Okay, and then just like you suspect, we're going to put y plus 4 in for y. And then whenever you substitute in for y, you solve for y. And then finally, we're going to follow this with a vertical stretch by a factor of 4. So vertical is y. So there's the notation there. And yes, just as you might guess, the inverse expression, 1/4 y, 1/4 y will get substituted in for y, and then we'll solve for y. Again, so getting this table right is everything, and the algebra ends up being the easier side of this. All right, so what does this look like? Well, you probably should do just one thing at a time. And that's really what I'm going to encourage you to do. So x minus 3 goes in for x. And now we need to simplify on the right-hand side. So what does that mean? I'm going to do a little mental math here to save some space. 3x minus 9 minus 2. That's 3x minus 11. Now, y plus 4 is going to go in for y, and then we're going to solve for y by subtracting 4 over. And now 1/4 y is going to go in for y, and we're going to solve for y again. So anytime you replace for y, you have to solve for y. Anytime you replace for x, you have to solve, or you have to simplify for x on that side. So x is simplification, y is solving for y. So what types of simplification would there be? Possibly like if you substituted into a squared, you'd have the FOIL product. A lot of times just the distributive property and adding like terms. All right, so we got to multiply by 4 everywhere here. And make sure that you distribute that 4 through. So 12x minus 60 is our end game on that. So you can see how you got to get this right. Then you got to do the math right. And some of these, you know, the quiz problems are going to be simpler than this. But I've really made these to where it will test you very well. And you will get plenty of practice. So if you wanted to stop the video right now and try number 2, that might be a good thing to do. Okay. So if you tried 2, your first transformation, you reflect it across the x-axis. So I just put across x when I do that. And then it is negative y for y. That's the substitution. So any of these transformations have substitutions that you have to do. Okay, second thing, stretch horizontally by a factor of 3. So anytime you are going horizontally, whether it's translating back and forth or stretching, it is dealing with x. So you see the word factor, it's going to be this multiplication or sometimes multiplying by a fraction. And when you see translate or sliding, that's when you're doing the adding. So here we're going to replace x. We're going to say 1/3 x for x. I was going to say replace x with 1/3 x. Either way. And then number 3, translate 4 units to the right. So x is going to go to x plus 4. So we're going to substitute in x minus 4 for x. So remember, when you substitute in for y, you solve for y. Immediately following, when you substitute in for x, there's simplifications to do. So what is this going to look like? So you have this, step 1. Well, this is pretty easy to solve. It does not go under the square root. Do not do that. No, no, no. So now 1/3 x for x. And there's no simplifying we can do. We just throw the x away and put 1/3 x. And now x minus 4 in for x again. You got to substitute with parentheses. You can leave it like that. I decided to multiply my 1/3 in. So that is the final answer that I came up with. Okay, you might want to try problem 3 and then come to the video again. And this one is going to be a bit of work. Okay, first thing, we want to reflect it across the y-axis. So I just put across y, and then we were going to replace x with negative x. So it's always the opposite. So if it's across the x-axis, we replace y with negative y. Translate 3 units right and 4 units down. So 3 units to the right is x goes to x plus 3, and then 4 units down is y goes to y minus 4. If you wanted to do just all one side of this, you could just go through all of these. Find a horizontal compression followed by a horizontal compression by a factor of 1/2. So this is y would go to 1/2 y. Nope, x, sorry. Horizontal is x. So just check that out if you need to. Sorry about that. On your page of notes, is horizontal x or y? So horizontal is left and right, x side, vertical is up and down, y side. All right, so x minus 3 is in for x, and then we have to simplify. And then y plus 4 is in for y, and then we have to solve for y. And then 2x is in for x, and then we have to simplify after that. So in replacing for x, we simplify. In replacing for y, we solve for y. So there's always something to do after each of these. So we're starting with this, and this is going to be very algebra busy in what you have to do. So x goes in, negative x goes in for x, step 1. So now we have to simplify that out. And what would that involve? This would involve this negative x to the second power is really just x squared. And then this becomes minus 5x. So 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. That's all for just step 1. And then we have x minus 3 for x. And this is where there's going to be a little bit of work. And indicate that substitution with parentheses. So now you have to FOIL out correctly the x minus 3 and distribute, I'll do that right away here, the negative 5 through, FOIL out the x. So you can see how this is an incredible dose of algebra steps here. So minus 12x minus 5x is minus 17x. 18 plus 15, 33 minus 7. Sorry to pause for a moment. I was looking at another way that I did this. The other way that I did this is I put in the y minus 4, or the y plus 4, excuse me, at the same time, but you really should do them separately. So now the y plus 4 goes in. So in finishing this, 18 plus 15, 33 minus 3 is 30. Now the y plus 4 goes in for y, and you solve for y. So anytime you substitute in for y, you solve for y. This is a simple one. Plus 26. And then the last one is 2x goes in for x, and then you simplify. So make sure you indicate the 2x. So you see all these algebra steps and having to take things to powers and to get your final. So this is going to be 2 times 2 squared, which is 8x squared. And then 30 minus 34x, and then plus 26. So that's a whole lot of work to get to the final thing. Pretty much the only thing this didn't have was like a reflection about the x or y axis. So be very careful in describing this. Be very careful in deciding the inverse. And oh, actually, we did have one across the y. Sorry about that. So this had about everything. The only thing it didn't have would be a vertical stretch or compression. All right, so number 4, again, maybe stop the video and see if you can do this in its entirety. All right, so translating 5 units up is going to be this. And y minus 5 will go in for y. Followed by a vertical compression by a factor of 1/3. So that's y going to 1/3 y. And so we're going to put 3y in for y. And both of these would be solving for y. And a horizontal stretching by a factor of 2. So horizontal is x. And so 1/2 x will go in for x. And then we would simplify. So remember, when you replace for y, you solve for y. When you replace for x, you simplify. Okay, so this is the absolute value. Don't get too scared. So add the 5. Don't add it inside the absolute value. You don't do that. 3y in for y. And then we have to solve for y, just like we did in the last one. So this involves dividing by, multiplying by 1/3 everywhere. So probably the easiest way to think about it. So 1/3 is in front of the x minus 3, and then 1/3 is in front of the 5/3. And then 1/2 x gets replaced for x, and then simplify if possible. And in this case, it is not possible. And that ends up being the final statement with that. Okay, moving on to 5. And again, you can stop the video if you want and give this a shot. This will also be a little bit of work. So we're going to start by translating down 3 units. So y plus 3 will go in for y. Secondly, an x-axis reflection. So again, I just put about x, and this is replace y with negative y. And then 3 followed by a vertical stretching by a factor of 4. So 1/4 y will go in for y. So you just have to think of the inverse. That's where the difficult thing can come in. And make sure you substitute the correct thing in as you're doing your work. A lot of students will forget to take the inverse. And then from there, they may do their simplification wrong or solving for y incorrectly. So subtract 3 over, it knocks the 3 out. Now we have to replace y with negative y and also again solve for y. So this just involves running a negative through the right-hand side. And now we replace y with 1/4 y. So everything was on the y this time. Sometimes that happens. And so we have to multiply through by 4 everywhere to get this. In its final state that we needed in. So negative 4x to the 3rd minus 16x squared plus 16x is that final answer. Okay, stop the video, see if you can do number 6. So 3 units down, So y plus 3 will go in for y. Oh, sorry, did that wrong. Shift right 3 units, my bad, and then 6 units down. So I messed that up. X goes to x plus 3, and we want x minus 3 in for x. Sorry about that. You got to read a little more carefully. All right, so x goes to x plus 3. Step 2, 6 units down. And so y is going to go to y minus 6. So we're going to have y plus 6 in for y. Ending with the y-axis reflection. So we're going about y, and that means we're going to put in, we're going to replace x with negative x. Excuse me. So it's always the opposite as you do this. Okay. I think I got it all right. Down 6 units, y plus 6, 3 units to the right. Just had the words a little bit in different order, and I read too quickly there. All right, so x minus 3 goes in for x. So what does that look like? That means that we have this, meaning that it's really 1 over x minus 6. So the simplifying, remember that anytime you replace for x, you simplify appropriately. So y plus 6 in for y, and then solve for y. Okay, so 1 over x minus 6, and now the reflection, we replace x with negative x, and then try to do any simplifying, and there's not any simplifying we can do. So we kind of end up with a bunch of negatives in the problem. So it's really important as you do these that you double check your little table over here. Even I, in my haste, can do things wrong on those tables. All right, stop the video and see if you can do number 7. Okay, stretch it vertically by a factor of 2. So we're going to have 1/2 y in for y. Reflected across the y-axis. So across y means that we're going to replace x with negative x and simplify. And then 3 units right and 1 unit up. So 3 units to the right and 1 unit up. So x minus 3 goes in for x, and then y minus 1 will go in for y and solve for y. So we have a bit of work to do on this one. I'm going to have a FOIL product to do. So first thing is that 1/2 y goes in for y, and then we have to solve for y. So 2x squared minus 18. I'm not leaving myself very much room here. I'm going to run into a little bit of trouble. Negative x goes in for x. And that's not going to make any change. So I'll just write that right here. So negative x squared is x squared again. Negative x times negative x, positive x squared. So now we're going to put in x minus 3 for x. So this is going to be, you got to do the FOIL product. So x minus 3 times x minus 3. X squared minus 6x plus 9. And run the 2 through and simplify. So we're going to have 2x squared minus 12x, and then 18 minus 18 is actually nothing. Okay, and then x minus 3 goes in for x, and y minus what. You can do this at the same time. You can do translations at the same time. Oh, whoops, we did x minus 3. Sorry, just y minus 1. You could have done those at the same time is what I'm saying. I already did the x minus 3. Y minus 1 goes in for y. And then solve for y by adding 1. And that is it. Just leave yourself appropriate room as you're working. All right, problem 8. Stop the video, see if you can do it. So we're shifting 3 units to the right. So x minus 3 for x. And then 4 units down. So you do need to make sure that you're getting the x and the y piece correct, and that you're taking for the substitution the inverse. So you can do these at the same time is what I meant to say. Only translations can you do at the same time. So don't, all the other steps you cannot do at the same time. And so if you're really not sure, just do the first one first and then the second one second. All right, so we have to solve for y and simplify at the same time. So this is going to be 2x minus 13 under the square root and then minus 4 on the end. Okay, so make sure that you're not putting that 4 underneath the square root sign there. So that was a pretty easy one. Last two. Okay, so again, you can stop the video if you want and see what you can come up with. Compress vertically by a factor of 1/4. So we're going to put 4y in for y. Compressed horizontally by a factor of 1/2. So 2x in for x and simplify. So, and again, anytime you put in for y, you solve for y. Anytime you put in for x, I meant to say x there. Anytime you put in for x, you simplify. When I get fatigued, I just make mistakes. I try to catch them. And then 3 and 4 shift 3 units to the right. So x minus 3 will go in for x, and then 2 units up. So y minus 2 will go in for y and solve for y. All right, here we go. We got a pretty nice function to start with. So 1/4 y in and solve for y. So it means multiply by 4 everywhere. Hopefully you can do that. Oh, I did that. I messed that up. Let me get over to my page here. Sorry. This is what I get for working too quickly. This needs to be 4. And so that changes these coefficients to fractions. So what I get for working fast. So 4y goes in for y. All right, so let me get myself squared away here after that wrong move. So you want to divide by 4. After you put 4y in for y, it gives you 5/4 x minus 3/4, and then put 2x in for x, it gives you 10/4 x minus 3/4. So you simplify to 5/2 x minus 3/4. And then we want to do x minus 3 in for x. Okay, and simplify that. So that's 5/2 x minus 15/2. So that's 34th. So minus 33/4. And now we need to put y minus 2 in for y. And then we would add 2 to both sides. Lots of fraction work. So negative 33/4 plus 8/4 is negative 25/4. Yeah, when I'm tired, I can add fractions, but can't pay attention very well. All right, last but not least, x-axis reflection and the y-axis reflection. So we're going about x and about y. So we replace y with negative y and x with negative x. And anytime again that you replace x, you solve, anytime you replace the y, you solve for y. Anytime you replace the x, you simplify on that side. So one at a time, y with negative y. So this just runs a negative through the other side. And then x with negative x. So again, we have these powers happening. So you have to think a little bit on this. So the negative x cubed is negative x to the third power is negative x cubed. So this here produces a positive 5x cubed. The negative x squared is positive x squared times negative 2. So if you need to do, so this is really like saying negative 1 to the third power. That's negative 1 times negative 5 is 5. Then x to the third. Negative 1 squared is 1 times negative 2. So it's taking the coefficient to that power. That's really what you're doing there. Okay, that ends this assignment. You should go through this in its entirety because if you learn this, you'll be good to go on the first and third assignments. The third assignment is just the graph version of this, but all is the same. You write it down, you substitute in the inverse expression, simplify when you substitute in for x, solve for y when you substitute in for y.